Welcome back to another episode of Sal and Pals Go to the Movies. I'm here with my friend Touly. Say hi, Touly.
Hi, guys.
And today we're going to be reviewing Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of the Skywalker. And just a fair warning, there's going to be spoilers up ahead, so you've been warned. The surviving resistance faces the First Order once more in the final chapter of the Skywalker saga. So if you want to know the names of the cast and everything and all the specs and details, click on the link below and let's get right into this. So I'm going to start off my review with my pros and cons. My pros for this movie was one thing that has amazed me throughout this whole franchise, the music score. And if you stayed all the way to the end, the ending credits, it was just a magnificent masterpiece. It was just renditions of the same songs over and over in different formats and everything. I stayed for the whole thing. I enjoyed the score inside the movie and at the end of the movie. So for me, that was a really fine part of the movie. Also, if you're familiar with the composer, he actually made a cameo in the movie. So if you've seen it or are you going to go see it again, try to spot him. And I really enjoyed also the secret messages to the fans, especially like when the characters were talking into the camera. It was they're breaking the fourth wall and talking to us. It's the scene that comes to mind was the C-3PO when his mind's going to get wiped and they're asking him, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Just taking a look at my friends, one last time." And he's looking at the camera, which he's looking at us. So we are his friends. We grew up with him. And C-3PO and R2-D2 have been in all the Star Wars movies. And it's said that it's basically a retelling through their eyes. And to me, it's like they're the guys who are guiding us through the movies. And for him to basically turn and say, looking at our friends for the last time, is like, wow. I'm not saying that it was a tear-jerking scene, but it was like, wow, like this is the last time we are going to see them. Another thing, I really enjoyed the new character that was introduced, Babu Frik. He was awesome. Like when he's tampering with C-3PO's brain and everything and the way he's talking and everything is just the way that led up to that point when they're talking about this person who's a hacker. He could hack into droids. It just seemed like this is going to be this guy with a lot of arms and everything and really big and everything. And then it turns out it's like a small little person. It was hilarious. He was funny. He was cute. He was everything rolled into one. My final pro, which kind of lead into a negative, was basically the idea of Ben talking to his father. And this is when Han Solo made his cameo. I really like the cameo, but it's basically taken when he killed him on the bridge and it's the same dialogue. But at the same time, it's like, I enjoyed seeing Han Solo again in the movie. He's reprising his role. He's back. It's like basically this was a goodbye letter all wrapped into one. We saw everybody saying goodbye in a sense or in a way. The conversation they had was stop being Kylo and become Ben again. And I think that was like the whole turning point of the movie, the same way how it was when Anakin turned into Vader and the talk they had about basically not falling into the wrong side of the dark side and stuff like that. So to me, that was kind of like an homage to the original films and everything. There's a bunch of stuff in this movie. And when JJ's in it, like if you guys remember the Remember Berries from the South Park, is the same thing. He's touching upon key items or key stories or key elements from the previous movies that will touch us and say, wow, we kind of like this and we don't know why. So he's kind of good at that. Now on to my cons. I don't know why they had to put porgs in here again. I didn't like the porgs back then and I still don't like them. I really actually wanted more Ewoks. There was one Ewok and I wanted more Ewoks in there, but porgs, I don't understand why. Carrie Fisher, her role in this movie to me felt kind of really awkward. I know that when they filmed this movie, she had passed away and they used archive footage as filler. But the way they did it, to me, it seemed like I was playing a video game when you end up in the screen and you have the person in front of you and you're opting to either choose a dialogue, yes, no, or maybe, or something like that to progress the story. It seemed that way because it was just looking at her straight and she would deliver her line. Then it would turn the camera over her shoulder and had the actor reply to her. And then it would turn back to her in the same spot. So to me, it just felt really weird in a sense. I'm like, it felt more cringeworthy than an homage. If I would do something, I would fix that. And then the whole concept of the movie, that it looked like they were going to revisit every single spot of the whole franchise, of the whole saga. It seemed like Rey was just going back and tracing the steps of Luke. Mind you that the only thing that she didn't go to was to where Luke was trained with Yoda, but we did see a scene where the same thing happened when Yoda raced the plane out of the swamp and Luke raced his plane out of the waters. It was the same scene by scene kind of thing. So it was these homage to the original movies coming back to it, and just the whole concept of Rey revisiting everything that she had done before. To me, it just seemed like they're trying too hard to play into our nostalgia part of the brain, and it was that part of my brain has been overwhelmed by these few Star Wars movies. So it's like, stop it. I don't need that anymore. I just want you to get to the story, like give me what I'm here for. My last thing is that awkward kiss between Kylo and Rey at the end of the movie. What was up with that? I'm like, I didn't need it. The whole point was that they had a bond. I didn't think Disney was going to go this way with the love story somewhere in there. So they just popped it out of nowhere. For me, it just seemed like JJ was trying to touch upon all these different concepts to see what people would feel and just give us emotions. But to me, that awkward kiss didn't really do anything for me. I mean, it could be that I'm a little cold-hearted, but to me, it just seemed awkward. At the same thing at the end of the movie when she goes back to Tatooine and she buries the two lightsabers. The ghosts are right there, Luke and Leia. Why did she have to bury the lightsabers? Why couldn't she keep them with her? Maybe it's to symbolize that she's burying them in the grave, but to be honest, the lightsabers are basically supposed to be displayed or something. These are the legacies of the people who came before us. And mind you that she got her own lightsaber made out of her own staff. I mean, like, this is this whole thing of like, why are you putting something away? It's like you're forgetting about them instead of honoring them. The way she took the last name, I'm like, I thought she was going to basically be like, yeah, these are from my, ancestors kind of thing. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Touly, see how he saw the movie and what grade he gave the movie.
First off, I want to put it out there from where I'm coming from in terms of my review of the film. I am not a Star Wars fanatic, and by that I mean I'm not a hardcore fan. I don't read all the extracurricular content that is canon to the film. How I review a Star Wars film like Rise of Skywalker or any other Star Wars film is directly based off the film and its predecessor films. So with that being said, Rise of Skywalker, I went in with very little expectations because of how they handled The Last Jedi. I mean, I for one really enjoyed The Force Awakens, and although I've heard many people say that it's just a rehash of maybe like Star Wars Episode 4, and in the sense of them, having the new characters replace the old, the same sort of scenes that we would see that I personally felt wouldn't be a Star Wars film and they weren't included in a Star Wars film. I mean, I really liked Star Wars The Force Awakens because of the foundation they set up, the sort of story that got me to buy into what they were gonna do, the suspension of belief that it's supposed to have me under, but with The Last Jedi leading up to this film, it led me to not have much expectations, which in the end kind of helped me enjoy this film more so than I would have otherwise. I try really hard not to nitpick and stuff, and even then I did notice a lot of things that I did not like about this film because I sort of just turned off my brain. I was just able to experience the movie for kind of what it was. I thought the movie was okay. It wasn't great, but it wasn't like terribly bad. So that's my general take on the film. I will quickly go over some of the things that I liked and then some of the things I did not like about it. So my pros for Rise of the Skywalker, definitely the cinematography, type of shots that they were able to get in, the sort of scenes that they were able to capture. I've always considered the Star Wars franchise doing a great job at this sort of thing. So gotta give props to camera work and everything that goes into creating a beautiful shot. Just now mentioned some cameo appearances in this film. There were quite a few, but my favorite, and Sal already alluded to it, was actually John Williams' cameo because I'm pretty big on music in general. I do play an instrument, and the music that John Williams have composed for the Star Wars franchise, it's like extremely iconic, pretty much solidified itself into pop culture. You can't not think Star Wars when you hear these tunes. So the fact that John Williams made a cameo, and I believe it's his first cameo in a Star Wars film too. I could be wrong, but if it is his first, I'm really glad that they were able to give him that little nod because, like I said, I'm a big fan of like music, and for them to sort of honor him like this, I thought was neat. The comedy that was in this film, I wasn't expecting the film to have this much comedy, but I think overall the comedy worked. I did feel that some of the comedy was forced or either awkward. An example of that would be when Poe and Finn got back from receiving that spies message. Poe had this little argument with Rey about, the Millennium Falcon being damaged. Well, I guess that was Rey's perspective. So like, what happened? What did you do to this aircraft? And then Poe was like, well, what did you do to my droid BB-8? And I thought it kind of just lingered a little too long for my taste. Like, this seems like very childish argument at this point. Like some of the other comedy, it at least just made sense more with the scene. Like, C-3PO saying after the group fell into that tunnel in the desert, with him saying that he was alright because nobody asked him if he was alright, because everybody else acknowledged one another, whether or not they were fine, but C-3PO was left out of that conversation. So like it was more moments like those that I appreciated in terms of the comedy aspect of the film. And this is going to relate to one of my cons later, but I'm going to just bring this up for now in terms of it being a pro. When I saw Rey shoot out lightning, I wasn't expecting that. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, okay. That was an interesting little twist there. Let's see where they go with this. And of course, there was only one other guy from like the Star Wars franchise who people could associate Rey's origin to at this point by seeing that. But, for me, I wasn't really kind of thinking that when I saw it. I was just like, oh, wow, she just like blew up a transporter ship. And I was like, oh, didn't see that coming, because it was pretty much a struggle between her and Kylo Ren at that point, where them trying to just grab a hold of the ship, pull it to one side or the other, because apparently Chewie had been taken hostage and he was on that ship, and Rey was just trying to make an effort to rescue Chewie in that instance. Well, in the process of doing so, she blew it up by shooting out some lightning. So just in terms of that context, it got my eyes to widen. It's like, okay, that was kind of neat. I mean, I'm not saying that it was like epic or anything, which is something I'm going to mention in my cons in a bit. It kind of got me a little off my seat when I saw it. I didn't see it coming. One more pro here before I move over to my con. To see Kylo Ren get his closure, I'm glad that he got it, because I personally feel that out of all the characters, from Force Awakens to The Rise of Skywalker, I feel like Kylo had the sort of arc that you can appreciate because of the conflict he was under, with his origin of becoming a Jedi himself, and how he even mentioned to the memory of his father about him not having the strength to go back to becoming a good person after all that he's done. I could at least appreciate the arc that he went through. At least it got a closure. But yeah, let's move over to my cons really quick here. And believe me, there were a lot, but I tried to keep them to like 5 points. First one is the setups that existed in this film that, of course, carried over from The Last Jedi. They led to awkward moments or like no satisfying payoff due to like poor execution. For instance, Rose's presence, like she was apparently a big deal in The Last Jedi, but in this film, she was pretty much in the background. And I felt like they were forcefully doing this to perhaps negate the backlash of Rose's character in The Last Jedi because of the sort of impact that she did not have, I feel, that they wanted a character of her to have. So she kind of like was put in the background, and it felt like they did like the opposite extreme where, okay, let's just not have this character mean as much despite the effort that was put into this character from the prior film. So that was one point in terms of like the setups that did lead to like awkward moments or like no satisfying payoff. Chewie's death, which kind of relate to what I was talking about earlier about Rey trying to rescue him by trying to stop the transporter, but ended up blowing it up instead. They didn't linger on Chewie's death long enough for me to feel anything, or for me to feel as much as you would for like a character that was so beloved in the franchise. They just pretty much negated it by letting the audience know that, hey, Chewie is still alive. There was another transporter and he was on that one instead. Like this just happened like, a few scenes or so after we found out that Chewie got apparently blown up in a transporter. So again, no satisfying payoff. I can also say the same thing for C-3PO's death. I mean, why even mention that your memory is going to get wiped or whatever when you could just restore it? Like Palpatine coming out of nowhere. He was the one pulling the strings the entire time behind the scene. But again, to my understanding, based on the films of this particular trilogy, there was no obvious reason for me to believe that there was another guy pulling the string behind Snoke. And also the power that he harnessed, again, for being a guy who claims to be the resemblance of all the Sith. I mean, he did not even take down one starship aircraft or what have you at the end. Shot out sparks of lightning into the sky, and it hit all the last resistance ship, but not one ship got taken down, which is absurd to me given how strong Palpatine was. And him out of the blue stealing the life force of Rey and Kylo's, I'm like, I mean, it's like they're just creating abilities left and right conveniently to fit their plot. And of course, this translates to like the force healing as well. I do not like the concept of force healing because it negates the impact that a death would have. Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of force healing, although it did lead to a setup at the end with Kylo using force healing on Rey to save her life. On the matter of what Sal mentioned about the kiss, I also feel the same way. Like, it felt so out of place, came out of nowhere in that sort of unexpected but no setup sort of way where there was never a part of me that felt like there was a relationship between the two. They have this little special bond with their, force linking connection, but in terms of the romantic sort of way, I never felt that. So when I saw it, it really threw me off. So I wish Kylo would have just like died in Rey's arms and just let it be this poetic thing where, despite the awful thing that Kylo has done, he at least was able to do that thing that he talked to his father about. And then the message that Finn had for Rey, like, they brought it up. Finn had this thing that he wanted to tell Rey, but he never got to do so, which kind of leads me to 2 points. I was under the impression that Finn was in love with Rey, and they kind of already at least set it up so where I could sort of believe that. So I was thinking like maybe he was going to confess to her or something, or it could have been that he knew who Rey was, like in relationship to Palpatine, because there was the scene where he was talking to Paul about how he, sort of doesn't understand what Rey's going through. That made me feel that Finn knew something about Rey's relationship with Palpatine. And then again, to just go down the rest of my cons here. Introduction to the new characters, I thought they didn't need the new characters because you still had all these prior characters that you needed to establish better connection between because of the lack of it from, The Last Jedi. I wasn't very encouraged to get to know more of the new characters. Also, too much exposition. Leia's sacrifice, as mentioned by Maz Kanata, who tried to fill in the reason as to why Leia was going to do what she was going to do, and that this was her last sort of stand in trying to reach to her son Ben. She literally pointed out what she was going to do, and that to me doesn't sit well when a film literally just lays it out there in exposition instead of letting me as the audience sort of figure it out myself. I mean, the same with Palpatine's go at the end, for him to just spill it all out instead of just luring Rey to where he is and letting Rey kill him, because I believe that was Rey's intention already. So had she just done that, then Palpatine would have gotten what he wanted. It just, like, again, exposition. You didn't need to do this. Just let Rey do what she was going to do, and you would have gotten what you wanted. So it's just doesn't make sense to me. And then the pacing was awful. I mean, some of the scenes, like I said, they were entertaining, but there weren't a lot of moments for things to settle in. For us as the audience to sort of appreciate what was in front of us. Normally you need these scenes to sort of linger for a bit so that we could sort of feel the sort of tension that we're trying to build up, the sort of emotions that we're trying to get us to go through. And last but not least, to round this con list up, there wasn't like an epic moment in this film. I was expecting something in this film in retrospect to them just being a moment where I was like, oh my god, this is like so cool or whatever. And for me, I personally thought when Rey met the dark side version of herself, I thought that was going to be a moment because, like, all right, we're going to get like a very cool saber fight, and we'll see where that goes. But no, like, we barely got anything. Like, she got scared off by her dark side, and that was it. And I was like utterly disappointed because I thought that would be a moment of like a cool battle between her and herself. The inner struggle that you would have to build character. But no, we didn't have that either. Again, for me, no epic moment. Definitely goes into my con list. Overall, I would say that because I kind of turned off my brain, I was able to enjoy certain aspects of the film, despite the cons that I mentioned. So in the end, I ended up giving the film a 5.5 out of 10.
I still liked it a little more than your grade. So my grade for this movie is going to be 6.5 to 7 out of 10. The reason is because I don't see it as a final ending point. I know that Disney Plus is going to continue comics and books and everything like they always done for the Star Wars franchise. So in a sense, this is, like they said, the end of the Skywalker saga. So that does it for this review of Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker. Please join us next time when we are going to review The Grudge.
I went to the house. I think something followed me home.
Mommy? What's going on? What's wrong?
We need to leave right now.
Please like, comment, and subscribe. You can find our social media links down below. And like always, keep watching movies.